things. There's a lot of different herbs, singly, and combinations that can be used. There's hundreds of thousands of Americans that do rely on natural remedies who never get flu shots.
Right.
And many of these people actually question really the wisdom in getting a flu shot in the first place. And that's where, the vaccines, I just really would encourage you to write down Dr. Tenpenny, Tenpenny, and get to her website and start educating yourself about these vaccines and, the efficacy of them is not what is being touted. It really isn't. And I talked a few months ago about Dr. William Thompson, who was the whistleblower on the CDC back in the 2004 research studies that were being done on the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. And ultimately what ended up happening and what he admitted to was, there was some financial bonuses to them to omit certain things out of their research, and it really had to do with autism. And, because there's been such a big denial about, vaccines not causing autism. But when we look at, like, what I talked about last week, the MTHFR mutated gene, the genetically modified food, the glyphosate, and now the 2,4-D, which is 50% component of the Agent Orange that is now being added into Roundup because, all of these impregnated seeds on the genetically modified grains, they're becoming resistant to the glyphosate. So now they've gotten the okay for the 2,4-D to be added into that. So, Agent Orange, half of the component that made up Agent Orange to be sprayed over your food. But, how about, the formaldehyde and the aluminum? The aluminum and the mercury, they're neurotoxins.
Right. Make you go mad.
Yeah. They cross the blood-brain barrier. They do affect the brain. Autism, they say 98% of autism has to do with the MTHFR gene mutation. And so as we, I was talking about last week, as we continue, our air quality, it's the things that we cannot see that really are so dangerous, that are in our atmosphere. Our water. Yeah, come on. We talked about that. You get the annual report from the water department, the water district, and 100 and some different chemicals, 400 and some pathogens, that are still in there, and it's really serious, and
disgusting.
It is. And so, by keeping your body in pH, by selecting and eating better foods. There was a comparison where so many people say it's so expensive to eat organically. I can't afford to eat organically. That's not true.
That is not true.
It's not. And there was a comparison of 6 fast food breakfast sandwiches.
Okay.
And then what they did was they had the Applegate, turkey, bacon, and 6 fertile organic eggs, and gluten-free muffins made with organic, grains without all of the gluten added to it.
Okay. Sounds good.
And so they put together actually the very same breakfast sandwich, which the 6 sandwiches through the drive-through or the fast food place was like $25.85 or something like that.
For all of them.
For those 6 sandwiches.
Okay.
And then by doing it with the gluten-free muffins and with the gluten-free bread, the fertile eggs, and all of those components that were organic, it came in at $20.
Oh, so cheaper, actually.
So it was like almost $6 cheaper to make it at home. And so, this, you really, and I've said it before, you need to really take a look at what you're buying. There's things that you do get in the habit of buying that, what do those chips cost?
Right,
What does all the pop cost? What does all that macaroni and cheese cost? Really.
It is a choice.
It's choices.
Choice.
It's taking a look at things and really evaluating.
I was going to say evaluating
What you need, what you're putting on your table. It's either going to build health or it's going to tear it down.
I mean, I understand that we're in a hustle bustle, always on a fast pace, but really when it comes down to your family's health, that should be the one area where you should slow down a moment and just
really, exactly. And it's like I say, if your family eats meat, then look at the circulars. We have plenty of grass-fed meat that's sold in the stores. If you have an opportunity that a rancher that raises grass-fed beef, grass-fed buffalo, that are in, a natural habitat, that are not in a stressful situation. I mean, look at the feedlots. I mean, you drive by those feedlots, and it's like, wow. Of course, you can smell them a half a mile away before you even get there, and a half a mile after you pass them. But, and you look around what they're standing in, and then to know that they're being fed the genetically modified grains, because the majority of those of the grains, good 75% of them, they go into animal feed. And then they add other components into it, like chickens. Years ago, they used to cut their beaks off because they were in such cramped quarters, they would peck each other to death. They use arsenic, in the feed. All of these things will be, if you ingest that animal, ultimately by the time it goes through your system, your liver is going to try to process that and get rid of it. So we wonder why another reason why we have so much disease. But this with the vaccines and all the shots, the signs for the flu vaccine out there, the greatest danger, influenza, the technically correct name for the flu, it's an infectious disease caused by viruses. And these viruses enter the body via the respiratory membranes, resulting in inflammation, excess mucus. And if we look at fried foods and white sugar and white flour, these things cause excess mucus or catarrh in the body. And when you have a lot of mucus and the body's trying to clear that out of there, you end up with a lot of inflammations. So the other symptoms with the flu is the excess mucus trying to move, the chills, fever, headache, muscle aches, coughing. It's usually a really dry cough. And some people are sick with the flu, 10 days to 2 weeks. I talked about a few weeks ago picking up my little granddaughter, and she was really sick with the flu. And in 6 hours, I had her well. Within a couple hours, I had her fever broke.
Wow.
And the thing with that is it was just bombarding her with essential oils and the silver shield, getting her into a warm bath with ginger and baking soda. So then I went to the blender, and in went the pineapple and the spinach and the field greens and coconut oil and things like that for nourishment, to bring her pH up so that she had what she needed to fight what she was sick with. And I'm not kidding you, 6 hours. In 6 hours, she was well. And that was, On Guard. And herbalmedicinedr.com has a lot of essential oils, singly, in combination, kingdomofhealing.com, a lot of herbs, enzymes, essential oils as well.
So you brought some in today, and wild orange.
Yeah, I brought you a wild orange.
So now, you said how many drops in the water?
Just, 2 to 4 drops.
So
and
what,
well, something like that. What is that, a liter? A liter? I'd put 6 to 8 drops in that.
Okay.
It's high vitamin C, high in bioflavonoids. The essential oils are 50 to 70 times stronger than, something in its natural state. An herb or a food.
Because I love essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the oranges have always been my favorite. I love vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had a problem keeping me away from the vitamin C tablets because they tasted so good.
Yeah, I used to, there was a vitamin C that I used to buy in like a 500 count, and they were 100 milligrams, and they were Acerola cherry. I'd order those in, 6, 8 bottles at a time. They would always come up missing, and Danny always had them under his bed. That's where he tossed them when he was done. He'd get a hold of them, and those were his sweet tarts. He would just eat those things like sweet tarts. And one thing is he was just an incredibly well kid. he was not sick, and
it smells beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. And so this thing here that. The greatest danger with the flu isn't really the flu itself. It's the secondary bacterial infections that can develop in the weakened lung tissue. It's a lot of times you hear about people with, they had the flu and then it went into pneumonia. And a lot of times if people die with the flu, it's usually due to going into pneumonia. So that is a problem. The elderly and those with compromised immune systems are the ones who are most at risk. The description of flu or colds, you'll always read that the virus causes the problem in a susceptible person, but this simply acknowledges that not everyone exposed to the cold or the flu will come down with the disease. There are people that have extremely strong immune systems that can be in a room full of people that are coughing and sneezing and they don't get sick at all. So that has to do with the condition of their immune system. And of course, the whole point of a vaccine, the goal of the vaccine from the medical field, is to make someone immune to a particular illness. And the vaccine does this by presenting a weakened version of the pathogen into the body. So the body's immune system then fights off this weakened invader, and it becomes immune to whatever that was that they injected into the body. So, there's a variety. It used to be 30 years ago, I don't know, kids had maybe 10 different vaccines, and now by the time a child starts kindergarten, there's 54 different vaccines.
Oh my
54.
goodness.
54.
And
they're like, right out of the hospital, they're giving them the hepatitis B vaccine. And when you look at what hepatitis B is, it's like, why are they doing that? And the reason, what is ironic about that is it had to do with in Japan, with a high incidence of hepatitis B with babies in Japan. But look at the living conditions comparatively to the United States. It's as different as night and day.
Well, I would have to ask. Right, it is night and day.
Yeah.
Because, I would have to ask, do you think that they're
I mean, hepatitis B, are you going to take your child and let him hang out with